Sabha that a purification ritual was later conducted at the same site. He alleged that BJP workers were behind the ceremony and called it an insult to the constitution. Also, this also paves the way people still see caste, and despite various efforts made in society, it still remains ingrained in our body politics. Kharge also linked the incident to his identity as a Dalit. He said that the act amounted to treating him as an untouchable. The BJP rejected the allegation. Union Minister and former BJP President J.P. Nadda said that the incident was deeply distressing but insisted that people involved were not BJP members. Nadda said the BJP does not support such activities and promised the matter would be investigated.
मैं हल्द्वानी में पब्लिक स्पीच में रामलीला मैदान में रामलीला स्टेज पे भाषण किया और लाखों लोग वहां पर थे। उस वक्त मैंने किसी समाज का, किसी धर्म का नाम नहीं लिया, सिर्फ मैं लोगों के समस्याओं को वहां पर बताया। लेकिन मेरे स्पीच होने के बाद कल वो लोग बीजेपी के लोग सब मिलके हवन करके उस स्टेज का शुद्धिकरण करने का काम किए। You might have read in the newspaper. Is it the way in democracy?
जो माननीय खड़गे जी ने कहा है, ये सच में बहुत ही दुखदाई विषय है और ये दुखदाई सिर्फ कांग्रेस पार्टी के लिए नहीं, ये दुखदाई हम सब के लिए है। बीजेपी, क्योंकि खड़गे साहब ने कहा कि बीजेपी के लोग थे, मैं स्पष्ट करना चाहता हूं, यहां राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी भी बैठे हैं और मैं भी पूर्व राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष रहा हूं। बीजेपी डज नॉट सब्सक्राइब टू सच एक्टिविटीज, नेवर। लेकिन आपने कहा है हम इसकी तहकीकात भी करेंगे।
Meanwhile, the political dispute in Uttarakhand continues. Congress has alleged that the purification ritual was linked to Kharge's Dalit identity. BJP denies this and says the ceremony was linked instead to objections over slogans raised during Kharge's rally.
घटना को नड्डा जी ने कहा हम निंदा करते हैं जी। वो सुना नहीं क्या उन्होंने? भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऐसी किसी भी घटना का समर्थन नहीं करती, ना कर सकती है, ना हमारे आचरण में, ये कहा नड्डा जी ने। और फिर नड्डा जी ने यह भी कहा हम तहकीकात करेंगे। एकदम से ही उन्होंने विषय उठाया। तो नड्डा जी ने अपनी पूरी बात कही है, पूरी बात कही है ना हाउस में नड्डा जी ने। और वो हर विषय को पॉलिटिकल एंगल पे देखना पसंद करते हैं आजकल कांग्रेस के लोग। झूठ बोलो और भाग जाओ। अब ये क्या घटना थी? नड्डा जी ने कहा हमें तो पता नहीं, अभी आपने पहली बार उठाया। हम इस घटना की क्या, वो कह रहा है ऐसा सोच रखने वालों के भी हम साथ नहीं है, ये कहा है नड्डा जी ने। तो हमारी बात तो क्लियर हुई है। और उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि हमारे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी बैठे हैं हाउस में, ये पूरी तहकीकात करेंगे। उनको अपने गिरेबान में झांकना चाहिए जी। इस देश में सबसे पहले बाबा साहब बी आर अम्बेडकर जी को किसने हराया जी? चुनाव। क्या मानसिकता की बात करते हैं कांग्रेस? ये अगर कोई सामाजिक बुराई है तो दूर करने के लिए सुझाव दीजिए। हम इसके समर्थन में नहीं है। नड्डा जी ने कहा हम भी समर्थन में नहीं है, लेकिन घटना क्या हुई इसका भी पता नहीं है। घटना क्या हुई उसका भी पता नहीं है। तो नड्डा जी ने यही तो कहा तहकीकात करेंगे, और भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऐसी घटनाओं के समर्थन में नहीं है, ये कहा।
सर आप पार्लियामेंट
की जो एकदम मतलब ये जो मानसिकता है उसका प्रदर्शन है कि बीजेपी की विचारधारा क्या है, आरएसएस की विचारधारा क्या है। इसका खंडन होना चाहिए, प्रधानमंत्री जी को इसका खंडन करना चाहिए और माफी मांगनी चाहिए।
On this issue, I am joined by Rahul Ishwar, social rights activist, and Professor Ashwani Kumar. Before this, let me tell you, it just reminds me of a historical fact in '79 when Deputy Prime Minister Babu Jagjivan Ram had visited Kashi. He went to a particular college, and he unveiled a statue. If I recall it correctly, the pandas came there, and they washed it with the Ganga water. And it created a huge furor. I will not likely to get into this BJP versus Congress, but this word Shuddhikaran, and I'll start with Professor Ashwani Kumar. So this entire word of Shuddhikaran, and Shuddhikaran in context of a person who is a Dalit and being done there, but this time in the ruse that, he made certain statements against Sanatan Dharma. How do you look at it from a larger sociological point of view?
I think, Karthika, if you look at the classic work of, the French sociologist Homo Hierarchus by Dumo actually analyzed the Indian caste system based on Hindu social world in terms of purity and pollution. To me, in contemporary India, all these incidents inform us and also suggest the deep persistence of purity and pollution norms in our social life. We must realize that the persistence of purity and pollution in our social life is antithetical to the constitutional ideals, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar has spoken evocately about setting up modern republic on the ethical foundation of Maitri and solidarity and Karuna. So this tension continues to inform our democratic society. So I would look at, as you rightly said, not in terms of BJP or Congress, but I will look at as a larger social reality, which is normatively, I have worked extensively on purity and pollution in my, last 20 years of works looking at, persistence. And I'm also informed by my sociologist colleagues, most importantly, Sukhdev Thorat Sahab, a very respected sociologist and academician, his work, published in 2006 about untouchability. So let us not ignore that untouchability continues to persist in informal ways against the legal order, against the constitutional order, and also look at, the very, politicization of the caste. I mean, that also informs how our social world is reconstituted, the mandal, etc., etc. So there is a positive assertion of, lower caste in terms of democratic participation. But on the other hand, it also informs, the purity and pollution. So okay. I would look at, the larger reality.
We go to Rahul first. Thank you so much, Rahul, for joining me. Rahul, how do you look at this entire issue? For my viewers, I recall what happened when Babu Jagjeevan Ram was the Deputy Prime Minister during the Janata government. How do you look at this controversy? I think despite Ambedkar being the most important icon of modern India, at the level of practice, substantiveness or the social change has not taken place, or has not taken, which even Ambedkar spoke about, political democracy and social democracy.
Yes, Karthikeyaji, that's a fact. See, even though we have progressed a lot, especially regarding articulation, regarding evolution, or when we speak, there are some hard realities we shouldn't forget. I come from Kerala, where Swami Vivekananda himself came and said, you guys live in a lunatic asylum. And you guys are lunatics because of the casteist practices we had. So it is extremely unfortunate. I think the House also responded in a good way. That's the reason why our Vice President went on record to say, as your channel is showing, if Khargeji is insulted, everyone is insulted. And that's a right approach and right attitude towards these things. And J.P. Naddaji also, I think, accepted what had happened. I believe some ultra-right fringe like Ramasena did this so-called Shuddhikaran Yajna. Actually, Shuddhikaran shouldn't mean any of this, and the word can itself be misinterpreted in many ways. So I think that word is better. Like the earlier Professor Ashwini said, it can deeply have a tie to so many caste intricacies, mass caste, institutional racism, so many other things. So I think the better it is to leave that. We can have two approaches to this. One can be a Baba Sahib Ambedkar's approach. One can be a Gandhian approach. Whereas Baba Sahib Ambedkar believed in the annihilation of caste, Gandhiji believed in the harmonization of communities. But both accepted the reality that caste discrimination and ending of it is as important as freedom struggle for us. But since we are about to celebrate our August 15 Independence Day, Gandhiji went on record to say that, as importance I give to freedom of India, I will give to the, integration of the Hindu community or...
Also, Rahul, it also tells us one thing, Mr. Kharge is a practicing Buddhist. So even if you change, you do not escape the indignity of caste, Professor Ashwani Kumar.
Yes, yes. I mean, like that's something, you know, if you look at the history of caste system since ages, you know, and especially if you look at Arya Samaj movement, I think, you know, my colleagues would remember that the Shuddhikaran is coming in a different context, far more radical, progressive, liberal context when Arya Samaj used Shuddhikaran. So the incidents that you see and report is very different, radically different from Shuddhikaran. So, but the problem is about not just terminological confusion, but the larger sociological reality, you know, since ages. So if you convert into Christianity, if you convert into Buddhism, caste continues to inform, even in Islam. So we have to realize that what I have been asking and writing about, that on the one hand, caste system, caste census is a positive, you know, attribute of the social transformation. On the other hand, it would also feed into what we call ancient animosity, you know, the primordial animosity, you know, the persistence of biases, the prejudice, you know, in modern conditions. As Rahul has also spoken eloquently about institutional racism, institutional casteism. So all these things, you know, create a volatile mix, you know, at this point of time when the Democratic Republic is facing challenges from all over. It is a very condemnable act, given, you know, Kharge ji is very respectable. And I guess, you know, here I can see today that both parties are speaking the language of Maitri. I think it's very good development for Indian democracy. And I'm happy about it.
But Rahul, BJP should be very afraid, and this is the political point I would like to make. One simple mistake in 2015, they lost Bihar. One simple campaign कि 400 मिल गए तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बदल देगा, रिजर्वेशन चले जाएगा. They lost simple majority. You know, they ended up with 240. So the strength, though it's not 1980s social justice politics, because, you know, in a way, the larger mandal politics have subsumed the mandal. But then, you know, the reverse kick is also very much possible. I have seen that in 15 and 24 as a journalist, that if you play with that sentiment, the pushback can be immense, deep, and can take you by surprise. Rahul.
Absolutely, yes. Even in Karnataka, where some senior RSS functionaries went on to talk about reservations, they had a huge backlash. See, that's the reason why we have to understand the complexity. See, let me be honest, I'm a Hindu right-wing activist coming from the Brahmin community. The so-called forward caste should also understand the complex realities of India over the past 5,000 years. And we should be honest enough to understand that our backward communities have suffered for centuries. We should be empathizing. We should be ethically responsible, you know, for the plight they're having. And people like Baba Sahib, people like Gandhiji, people like Vivekananda, who all championed the cause even before Baba Sahib Ambedkar, the great Mahatma Phule was there. So it is a national patriotic responsibility towards our brethren from all communities, and that patriotic responsibility should have to be taken from our side. And that's the reason why Kharge ji, being a very, you know, Kharge ji is a pan-Indian leader. In the same way, Kharge ji is also a great Dalit leader. So a person of that stature should be respected, and if he is insulted, who would be spared? And maybe this is for an urban audience who is seeing this, they may not see this reality. But as Ashwini sir, you know, mentioned in many ways, it applies in so many indirect ways. Social capital, acceptability in a society, their caste giving privilege. So many aspects are there. So let us be mindful about this. Yes, we can deal in different ways. One, there can be an absolute caste neutral, left liberal, Nehruvian way. Then there can be annihilation of caste, like Baba Sahib Ambedkar said. Then there can be a different Gandhian strategy which says, let communities remain, but let there be no hierarchy.
He coined the word Harijan, which was subsequently discarded.
Yes. So there are different solutions or different proposed solutions. We may disagree on the solutions, but we should agree on the disease. That disease, definitely there is a casteism, and that has been there for thousands of years, and our backward communities have suffered immensely. And I don't think any other nation anywhere in the world had such inhumane system of institutionalized caste discrimination. So we Indians should be honest with this, accept it, try to overcome it.
Professor Ashwini Kumar, you know, there is one very unique aspect in Hinduism. You know, Hinduism, apart from, you know, every religion have God, we have gods. Hinduism is also about social reform movements, not limited in context of when modern coloniality touched us. Social reform movements were also pre-modern. I mean to say, Tukaram, Tulsi Ramayana, if we look at those historical Bhakti figures, those were reform movements. And then from the colonial encounter, we had different reformers from Swami Shraddhanand to Arya Samaj to Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Jyotiba Phule, and I can just go on and go on. But it also reflects a basic weakness in dealing with this entrenched caste structure. You use the word, the principle of purity and impurity. That doesn't seem to be shifting. In fact, it shifts down. It has shifted down to the intermediate caste from the upper caste.
I think let's come back to some of the classic works done by Rudolf Sand, Rajni Kothari, and others. What I see troubling at this point of time, that this what I would like to call the modernity of the untouchability. I mean, like that's being articulated in very disturbing ways at this point of time. Look at, the liberalization, globalization, last 30 years of massive transformation in economy. But symbolically, if you look at, the whole persistence, not exactly in the same form. Let me, Kartikeya ji say, the caste system is dead. The old ritual caste order is dead. But there are new forms of caste order that are being reflected in these kinds of incidents, So what I call modernity of these trends are disturbing, perplexing, and at the same time, also refer to, let's not forget that India has reached a stage where we call it, aspirational democracy. You have seen recently what has happened in the country. So I don't think in aspirational India, there is any place for this incident or any place for untouchability. The young boys and girls on the campus, in factories, all over on the street, we live in Bombay, cities and other places, this do not work. Let's not forget that when Baba Saheb Ambedkar came first time to Mumbai as a child, Bombay, he said, I'm liberated today. So I see the aspirational India, the aspirational journey of Indian democracy would certainly respond to that, rather than these narrow political responses. So I am looking at a much wider context of persistence of exactly prejudice, not the same caste order in the ritualistic sense in which purity and pollution. Let's not forget that in modernity also, the obsessive concern with hygiene also creates its own caste hierarchy, given the 3,000 years of untouchability history. So we need to be careful in our social spaces, interactions and cohabitation. So I would really look at, how sociologists and also, political parties, civil societies respond to the larger challenge of creating what Baba Ambedkar said, Baba Saheb said, a society which is based on the ethical principle of Maitri and Karuna, the Buddhist principles.
Absolutely. 1 minute to Rahul, closing comment from you.
Absolutely, yes. I totally agree with Professor Ashwini ji. See, that's the path we should take. You can call it many names. I think modern political parties understand the issue. They may call different political names. They may have different labels and wrappers. But the essence is, yes, there is a problem. There is a deep structured problem. And one more important thing, in the name of integrating our Hindu community members, we should not have Islamophobia. That's again the other wrong thing. So because we want to integrate Hindus, we need to have a Muslim enemy. As he rightly said, Maitri, Karuna, compassion, Gandhian path, consensus, pluralism, whichever name you want to call it, India's soul lies in that positive integration and being honest with our issues. We know, Kahi daag hai to chupaye kyun is a famous line from Amir Khan, Satyadeva Jayade. If there are some such dags, we should be open and honest about it and try to resolve. And that would be the true patriotism that we pay homage to our Mother India.
Absolutely. I thank both of you for joining me in this conversation. What has happened is very, very disturbing. It should not have happened and should be criticized by everyone. And to my viewers, this is all I had on point 3. And it's time for a short break. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you and good night.
It all began on the internet as an online satirical political campaign.
India is also witnessing a Gen Z protest. They want the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan to resign.